Hi, we'll be starting with a very simple topic called as a tax invoice. Now, a GST or a tax invoice is basically issued when there is a sale of taxable goods and services. Now, it would broadly, as an invoice, we know whenever goods are sold or services are sold to us, an invoice copy is made. That invoice copy will contain the description of the goods, the quantity of goods, the value of goods, the tax charge thereon, etc. Okay, so that could be called as a GST invoice. Now, as per law, as per GST laws, okay, it's stated that every registered person under GST supplying taxable goods or services is required to issue a tax invoice for all the supplies affected. So basically they're saying every registered taxable person. So every single taxable person, whenever he's making sale of taxable goods and services, he has to mandatorily issue a GST invoice, which is very common because when we go to buy goods and services, you can see the receipt that is actually called as a tax invoice. Now this invoice would look something like this. It contains the word tax invoice. Okay, it will contain the supplier's name, his GST registration number, the invoice date, the invoice number, the identifying number, the customer's recipient's name, his GSTN numbers, his address, the description of goods, the GST rate, the total amount, the value of the goods, okay, how much discount was given. I think this is fairly relatable. Whenever you must have made a purchase, you would see an invoice issued something like this. Now this tax invoice is issued in case of taxable goods and services. So generally goods are taxable and that is why you have a taxable invoice issued. But what if there is a non-taxable goods issued? For example, there could be exempt goods. So in exempt goods, you cannot issue a taxable invoice for a simple reason that there is no tax. It's exempt from GST. In such cases, you issue something called as a bill of supply. A bill of supply is just like an invoice, but it doesn't contain the tax amount because it doesn't contain any tax related thing because it's a exempt good. So a bill of supply is issued for exempt supplies and for supplies made under composition scheme, because composition dealers, if you read under section 10, you'll come to know that they cannot issue taxable invoices. They cannot collect tax from the customers. So for them also this is like it works like around exempt goods only, where you can't collect any tax from the customers. Even in exempt goods, there is no tax that you can levy onto the customers. So that time when you can't levy, you can't issue a taxable invoice. So you will issue something called a bill of supply. This is very important for you to know from exam point of view. Okay. Now what if I am supplying tax in one particular transaction? I'm supplying taxable as well as non-taxable goods. So maybe it is possible that you might come to my shop, and in my shop you must have bought sugar and you must have bought salt. Now salt is exempt and sugar is taxable. Now you tell me, will you issue a taxable invoice or you will issue a bill of supply? Exempt में bill of supply होता है and taxable goods में tax invoice होता है. What will you issue? This is very important. The concept is called as an invoice cum bill of supply. So it's a tax invoice cum bill of supply. So this you can mark it as important. As per notification number 45/2017, if a registered person is supplying taxable as well as exempted goods, he doesn't have to issue two separate invoices. He will issue something called as a invoice cum bill of supply. मतलब दोनों का ही काम करेगा वो. उसका नाम क्या है? इनवॉइस कम बिल ऑफ सप्लाई. Okay, to an unregistered person, then he can issue he can issue a single invoice called as invoice cum bill of supply. Mark this, both of them is important from exam point of view. Even invoice cum bill of supply when both is supplied together. Then coming to how many copies do you need to make. Now whenever you go in any shop, let's say you went to McDonald's, a invoice is given to you, a invoice is kept with them in the system. So there is at least 2 invoices made. If the goods are supposed to be transported, then there would be 3 invoices. One to be given to the transporter, to the person taking the goods. One will the supplier will keep, one the recipient will keep, and one this transporter will keep. So whenever goods are involved, so tax invoice, this comes manner of issuing, comes under the head of manner of issuing tax invoice. So in case of taxable goods, you issue in triplicate, that is the original, you give it to the recipient, duplicate to the transporter, and the triplicate to the supplier. In case of services, it is issued in duplicate, that is original is given to the recipient and the duplicate is kept with the supplier. Now the tax invoice is, that invoice has to contain certain information as given in the rules. If you have not given any information which has been prescribed as mandatory, you will have a penalty levied on your transaction. So therefore, very important that your invoice contains all the necessary information which is specified in the rules, which is very simple. Whichever invoice you want, whenever you go to buy anything, just pick it up. You will see all these information given. The details of the supplier, the date would be given in which financial year, date of issue, the recipient details, something called as the HSN code. That is for goods, the goods have a specific code number called as a HSN code. That's harmonized system of nomenclature. It's just a technical jargon which talks about it's a product classification system used all over the world. So it's an internationally product coding system. Means what? If I say I am buying a laptop, so internationally laptops are given a certain code which you have to go and see in the HSN code. So it might be 0061231. If I'm buying a notebook laptop, so maybe it can have a different HSN number. I could have a 2-in-1 laptop, so it will have a different HSN number. Now if they are all in the category of laptops, so maybe the heading would be the same, laptops, and then in the subheadings you would have notebook laptop, foldable laptop, touchscreen laptops, okay, SSD laptops, etc. Okay, so this is about HSN code. Then you would have the description of the goods and services. Now again, name and address of the recipient is to be given along with the name of the state and its code. So who is the recipient and which state is he from. If such recipient is unregistered and where the taxable value is of 50,000 or more. So you can mark it as important. What are they saying? That you also in the invoice you also have to mention the name of the recipient and its state. If the recipient is unregistered and the transaction is also 50,000 or more. Why? Because sometimes invoice can be issued to, he's an unregistered person, so we don't know where is he from. So maybe we might just issue some random invoices to any person and then we say we cannot locate him. So since the value is also more, 50,000 or more, we need to know from which state is he from, his name, address of the recipient. If it's less than 50,000, then it's okay. Okay, but if it's more than 50,000 and he's unregistered, then we need to know his address, his details, etc. Okay, this all is there. Then a new addition has been added, something called as a QR code. Okay, in having a invoice reference number, IRN number, in case of e-invoicing. Now this is a new concept and an important concept, and the future is there, which is called as e-invoicing. Okay, so this is made by an amendment act into 2021. This I'm covering in my next lecture. Okay, so this is important. Now e-invoices which are issued have a barcode, the QR code, like how we have in this Paytm and Google Pay, etc. So they have a barcode, and the barcode contains an invoice reference number. Now what is this? Details of e-invoicing will be there in the next video, but we can just remember that an invoice should contain the barcode wherever e-invoices are issued. Then an additional information is to be given in case when the goods are going to be exported. When a taxable tax invoice is issued by an exporter, then the invoice should have common sense. If exporter is there, what do you think additional information should be there? So the name of the country of destination country, कहाँ पे भेज रहे हो, कहाँ पे export कर रहे हो, invoice में वो mention होना चाहिए. Name and date of application for removal of the goods for export. So name and date of application for removal of goods for export. So when are you going to export the goods? That also should be given. And an endorsement or statement stating that supply is meant for export on payment of IGST, or supply is meant for export under a bond or without payment of IGST. So this will come in your Customs Act, where you realize that whenever exports are made, okay, there is generally, there could be tax, there could be export duty, or there could be no export duty. Okay, so generally export duty is not there, or maybe there is eligible for certain refunds. So in certain cases you have to undertake a bond, okay, that yes, I am going to export the goods, and then whatever export duty you are paying, you're going to get it refunded. So a bond is there for certain cases. You don't have to get into that now, but I'm just telling you that sometimes export duty is chargeable, so you will have to mention that yes, it is under payment of IGST. Okay, so export duty is charged, and whenever goods are going from one country to another, or it's coming imported into India, IGST is levied. तो तुमको बताना पड़ेगा कि IGST लगने वाला है कि refund मिलने वाला है. Okay, so this is an endorsement is to be given in this regard. So this would be covered in your Customs Act. Then comes about HSN Code. Now as per your 1st April 2021, okay, GST taxpayers will have to furnish the HSN code. For that, HSN code is for goods, and for services you have a SAC, that is a service accounting code. For example, if there is a coaching class, you will see SAC. If it is goods, you will see HSN. Okay, now what is HSN? So harmonized system of nomenclature is a internationally accepted product classification system used in over 195-200 countries. Under the HSN system, products or goods have been classified into 97 different chapters. मतलब क्या होता है, all over the world everybody uses HSN. So what happens, it becomes a commonly locatable goods. So HSN code, if I go 23689, so all over the world, anywhere I will come to know, acha theek hai, he's bought in some steel, he's bought in some watches. Okay, it's divided into different chapters, sub chapters, etc. So there could be steel, there could be steel scrap, okay, etc, etc. Subheadings can be there. Now coming to this, with how many HSN numbers need to be shown. So HSN numbers are generally of 6 digits. तो तुमको क्या इनवॉइस में सारे 6 डिजिट्स बताने हैं? So they are saying if your turnover is up to 5 crores, like you're a small guy, so then just show the first 4 digits of the HSN code. So HSN code is of 6 digits, but if you're a small dealer that is up to 5 CR, then you just have to show 4. If it is more than 5 crores transaction, okay, if your aggregate turnover in the past year is more than 5 crores, then you have to show all the 6 digits of your HSN code. Okay, now this is applicable for B2B transaction and not for B2C transaction. So mandatory you have to show the HSN code for B2B transactions. Up to 5 crores turnover हो तो 4 digits बताओगे चलेगा, but अगर तुम बड़े player हो like Reliance etc, Tatas etc, then you will have to show in B2B transaction all the 6 HSN all the 6 digits of the HSN code. Okay, so this the invoice is also given in a certain format, that is it form GST INB1. INB stands for invoice. So this is how the invoice copy looks. It contains the HSN code, the description of the goods, the rate, the discount, the value, the GST. Okay, all the details will be mentioned, and then that is it. We are done with the topic.